Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's try this again, South Carolina. Good afternoon, everyone. Very well, very good, very good. Welcome to the lecture series, the Witten Lecture Series, the 150 years of education. Give ourselves a hand. Yes. To open up, I will be offering a minstrel song written by Rhiannon Giddens, entitled Better Get Ya Learnin'. Oh, gather round me far and near. I have something that you must hear. I wish that I could write it down, but learning I have never found. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. When I was just a little pick, I almost learned from Cousin Nick, but Master learned it soon enough, and poor old Nick, he got strung up. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. The year was 1863. A paper read that I was free. But no one read it to my ear, and so I slaved for 2 more years. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. A teacher came from Ohio to teach us what we had to know. And before she taught us what from what, she up and died of whooping cough. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. I heard that there was a school that was free way back east in Tennessee. Before that I could go to town. The damn low ribs have burned it down. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. And now that I am old and gray, listen to what I have to say. The white folks, they have written a show. If you don't read, you'll never know. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Everybody, better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes. One more time. Better get you learning, better get you learning, better get you learning before it goes away. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Christian, for putting me after that. I appreciate it. I do not have a song, and I'm also not an education historian. I'm a math educator. But I do think in my role as dean that I have an obligation to be a good steward of the place. And part of being a good steward of the place is to understand the place's stories, its histories, its triumphs, its successes, the places where it's fallen, and its embarrassments along the way. So as I've taken on my role as Dean of the College of Education, I do so with a lens of what's transpired over the last 150 years of the College of Education, and before that a school, and before that a department, and before that a normal school. So I'm going to give you a few dates that if you were in the museum a bit ago for the reception, that you saw some of the dates that were listed in the exhibits there. March 1868, the new South Carolina Constitution directed the General Assembly to establish a normal school. March 1868. In February of 1873, now let me back up and say they were given 5 years to establish a normal school. February 1873, 1 month shy of 5 years, they created a normal school. February 1873 to September, this week, 150 years ago, on September 1st, 1874, the normal school opened. What lessons are there to learn in that? Well, one, bureaucracy was alive and well 150 years ago, and anything that you wanted to do took an extraordinarily long amount of time. So I guess we're still in good company 150 years later with that. But also the abrupt end of the normal school just a few short years after it launched is a startling reminder that the progress that's made many times is matched with opposition that impedes that progress. There was a vision for an equitable and just education system in South Carolina. That vision died a few short years later, but it really didn't, because the seeds for a more equitable and just education system were planted when that school opened in 1874. And we live there today. I believe that our College of Education has positioned itself to engage and help protect and help nurture a more just and educational system, not only here, not only on our campus, but all across South Carolina, establishing a model here, what we can do nationally and even beyond our country. So I'm really proud of the way that the college has responded to its challenges along the way. That is not a sense that somehow in 2024 we have arrived at where we seek to be, but we are one step closer in strong recognition that those seeds that were planted in 1874 are sprouting today, are continuing to be watered and continuing to be nurtured in productive soil. So as Dean, I'm really proud to welcome you here today and to commemorate and celebrate the development of the normal school. Today's lecture is named for the Charles and Margaret Witten, who endowed the Witten Lecture in 1989 for the Museum of Education, and able to bring distinguished guests to campus to discuss important educational issues. Charles Witten came to USC as the leader of the Naval ROTC and was later hired as the Dean of Students. He oversaw the desegregation progress in 1963. He stepped down from his role in student affairs in 1975 and taught in the College of Education's higher education program full-time until his retirement in 1986. The Witten family have been great supporters of the university, and in particular our College of Education. So in addition to this lectureship, a few other examples of their generosity include the Witten Room and the Russell House, a scholarship and fellowship in the higher education program and the college. And the next time that you enjoy lunch out on the patio, which we had an opportunity to sit just this evening at some of the tables outside that have been donated by the Witten family and their children. So we're pleased that 3 of the Wittens are here today, Jane, Margaret, and Anne, along with some of their children. And Spence and Richard sent their regards from Maryland and from Michigan. So I want to thank them. If they could kind of give a little hand and let us honor you and your family's contributions. I'd like to invite Dr. Christian Anderson, who's professor of higher education and director of our museum. Christian.
Thank you, Dean Hodges. And thank you all for being here today, and for those joining online, and this will be archived for you to watch later if you like. I have the pleasure to introduce our performer, our poet, and our speaker, and then I'll step aside and get out of the way. So let me start with Samuel McWhite, who sang this opening song for us. He's from Florence, South Carolina, and is currently a senior attending South Carolina State University, majoring in music education, where he is a charter member of the Kappa Pi chapter of Kappa Kappa Psi. He taught chorus at Clark Middle School in Orangeburg and still coaches voice from time to time. And as a board member, Samuel assists in the management of the J.B. Hunt Scholarship Fund. Samuel has an extensive history of performing for rhythm bands and other productions. He has appeared as the Man in Regina Taylor's Crowns, Walter in Hair, the American tribal love rock musical, as W.E.B. Du Bois in Charles Smith's Knock Me a Kiss, and the list goes on and on. Samuel is a member of the Trustus Theater Company, the NIA Company, Indigo Soul, and the Exotic Band Foundation. He is also one of the actors in Radical Carolina, the short film that is on loop playing in the gallery of the museum. So next time you watch that, you'll see Samuel as one of the actors portraying the Reconstruction era University of South Carolina. And I have to give a shout out to Betsy Newman for allowing us and giving us permission to show that movie on repeat in the gallery. Just a word about the song that he performed to begin today's event. Rhiannon Giddens wrote the song, Better Get Your Learning, as an expression of how important education was to the post-Civil War era. Education was foundational to the Reconstruction process, and it was such an appropriate song to start off today's event. So thank you, Sam. It was beautifully rendered. Thank you very much. Jennifer Bartell Boykin is the Poet Laureate of the City of Columbia, and she received her MFA and MLIS degrees, that's library science, here at the University of South Carolina. She has her debut book of poetry is called Traveling Mercy, and features the Bluefield community, which is in Johnsonville, South Carolina. Her second book, which just came out, Only Believe, won the 2023 Hillary Tham Capital Collection Prize. She's an alumna of Agnes Scott College, a member of Jennifer is a member of the Academy of American Poets, and has additional fellowships from Callaloo and the Watering Hole. She is a school librarian full-time at Muller Road Middle School and was named the 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year while she was teaching at Spring Valley High School. So, we've got a music education major and a former teacher, current school librarian, and she will perform an original poem that she wrote especially for today's event. So you can say you heard it here first. And then finally, Dr. Alexandria Russell is a historian, public history practitioner, and digital humanities scholar who describes herself as being passionate about making African-American history accessible to people of all backgrounds. Her research, published scholarship, digital projects, and inventive public programming expand our knowledge of African-American history, United States history, women and gender studies, and public history. She received her Ph.D. in history here at the University of South Carolina in 2018 from Department of History, earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science and a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education from the College of Charleston. And her book, Sights Seen and Unseen, Mapping African-American Women's Public History, is coming out in December. So mark your calendar. It is a national study that examines the evolution of African-American women's public commemorations in the United States from the late 19th century to the present. And I know we're going to hear more about this in just a bit. She has received several grants and fellowships to support her research, including the W.E.B. Du Bois Center a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and an American Democracy Fellowship from the Charles Warren Center at Harvard University. She recently served as the Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery Research Fellow for Digital Humanities at the Harvard Radcliffe Institute, and she has previously contributed to other university slavery study initiatives, including the Scarlet and Black Project at Rutgers, and she has worked with several local and national African American history initiatives to create accessible online content for audiences of all ages. After college, she worked for Congressman James Clyburn, and also then as a middle school educator in Berkeley County, South Carolina. So again, music education, teacher, librarian, another school teacher. And she is the founder and executive director of Black Women's Legacies, which is committed to raising awareness about past and present memorials that have been created to celebrate the legacies of Black women. She was also a teaching fellow here at USC. Currently, she is the interim vice president of education and external engagement at the Boston Symphony Orchestra and the W.E.B. Du Bois Research Institute non-resident fellow at Harvard University's Hutchins Center for African and African American Research. So I will turn the time over to our poet, and then we will hear from Dr. Russell. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The great poet Nikki Finney once told me that it's not the job of the poet to be a journalist. It's not my job to give you the facts of what the men and women of the normal school did. And so when I was thinking through what I wanted to do with this poem, I imagined myself as one of the graduates of the normal school, Celia Dial Saxon, and I imagined what it would be like to be one of the first Black person to come on this campus and to have the huge responsibility of becoming a teacher. So this poem is told from her perspective. And it doesn't have a title yet. I step onto the grounds of the university. My feet are nowhere near weary. Here I am with my sisters and brothers. We have answered the call to become one of the blessed ones to study here. Man has a way of stripping us of the things that make us human, of the joy God built inside of us, of the self-determination to be more. Today, we take it back. I was born into a law that made it illegal for me to learn to read and write, that declared me 3/5 of a person. Here I am, whole, of sound mind, of free body. We came from the cotton fields to the classrooms, from the ports of Charleston to the chairs of Rutledge Hall, from being banned from reading to banding together to read, to become one who teaches Black children to read. Nestled in our hearts, the conviction that knowledge is something to be shared, not hoarded. Today, we take it all back. We will never go back to the dark halls of illiteracy and ignorance. Education is the one thing they can never pilfer or pry from us. We will plant the seed of the normal school and spread it across this state, across this nation, to feed the dreams of those still yearning and those who have yet to be born. Slavery was normal to them, but never to us. Banning Black folks from reading was normal. During this great Reconstruction, normal changed. I was once enslaved, but now enrolled. Once serving in a house, but now studying in a lecture hall. Once downtrodden, but now determined to become a school teacher. Our hope and prayer is that our minds become as free as our bodies that belong to us, that were once beat down, forced into rows of cotton fields, fingers plucking the soft white gold. Reading is revolution. Reading is a portal we walk through, creating a path for those who are behind us. I stepped onto these grounds not knowing that in a few years I won't be able to return to study, that it will close and reopen all white, not knowing that white supremacists are still preparing to step on this campus 150 years after me, not knowing that certain books are still banned, not knowing that a school and a dorm will one day be named after me, blocks away from this horseshoe. Not knowing that I will spend over half a century educating South Carolina's Black children in segregated classrooms, classrooms they will step out of to step into schools named after them, spreading these seeds of education, the one thing they can never take from you or me. They will say Reconstruction failed. This failure is a lesson. What collapsed, we buttressed with our hands. With new blueprints, we built our own fortress of knowledge, impenetrable, immovable, eternal. I step onto the grounds of the university. My feet are nowhere near weary. A prayer and a hope in my heart for this blessed start that has no end. Thank you.
That was absolutely beautiful. Let's give her another round of applause. Well, hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today. Is that a little better? And I just want to start by, I always like to start my presentations with the moment of gratitude, and I have a lot to be grateful for here today. I'm really honored to be here as the Witten Scholar, and I got to meet the Wittens in the book nights earlier at the reception, and I can't tell you what it means to me to be a Richland I graduate, to be a teaching fellow, having taken my exam here, to have graduated from South Carolina public schools and then taught in them, and to be invited back here to now my alma mater. It's a tremendous honor. So thank you to the Witten and the Bucknight family for all that you're doing for USC. I want to shout out Christian Anderson. Professor Anderson has been so gracious. He's been a wonderful collaborator, even with my work with Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery and his work with the Richard Greener statue. So thanks to you for being a wonderful host, and thank you to Dean Hodges for all the many wonderful things you're doing to educate and train the next generation of teachers here at USC. It means a lot, and one of my mentors who I did student teaching with and shadowed when I was a high school student is here and is a USC alum. So that educational legacy is really important and continues to expand. I want to say hi to my mom and thank her for hosting me. We've had a lot of fun this week. I spent a lot of time in Boston, so thanks for being here, Mom. And I also want to thank my graduate advisor, Dr. Wanda Hendricks, a tremendous scholar and historian who was my graduate advisor and has done a lot to mentor me in the profession. So with that, and with the thank you to these tremendous artists, I'd like to go ahead and get started with my presentation. So let's see, okay. She was a remarkable teacher. I tried to copy a lot of things that she did when I taught Mrs. Saxon. The people had a lot of respect for her, not only the students, but the community. And that's a quote from Ulysses Barber, who many of you may know from the Harriet Barber Home, which is a commemoration in Hopkins, South Carolina. He was a student of Celia Dow Saxon at Booker T. Washington. And so today I want to talk about how Celia, along with other students at the State South Carolina Normal School, loved children. It was their love for children that propelled all of their activism and was central to their careers as educators, which all began right here, literally, with the formal training and professionalization that they received at the normal school. So I'll start by talking a little bit about the context in which Celia and the other students lived in and learned in, and how she used her teaching certificate and experience to positively impact African American education, not only here in Columbia locally, not just here in South Carolina statewide, but also nationally. Her education activism was so substantial that she became the most memorialized African American woman in South Carolina, which is the reason that I came to learn about her remarkable life as a researcher. Growing up in Columbia, I'd always heard of Saxon Homes. And so when I asked the question, why did they name Saxon Homes for this African American woman, it opened up a whole new world of research and inquiry for me. And finally, I'll end my presentation today with what meaning can we draw from this momentous occasion? What meaning can we learn from Celia and her cohort as we think about the 150th celebration of the normal school and what that means to us today? So what would it have meant to have been born enslaved and then live in South Carolina during the Reconstruction era? That's something that I often wonder about. You know, what did that feel like as a child, as a teenager, to be born enslaved and then grow up to see all of the things that happened during the Reconstruction era? So Celia was born in 1857, just several years before the dawn of the Civil War in 1861, and I argue that it was her mother, Sylvia Chapman, and her grandmother, Jane Ballard, who fostered a love of learning in her life. After all the turmoil and definitive emancipation that the Civil War brought, it was them that enrolled Celia into Howard School, which was a Freedmen's Bureau project set up to educate newly emancipated African Americans here in Columbia. Living in the capital city was such an exciting time in the 1870s. It's a period during which newly enfranchised voters elected the most African American representatives of any state in the South and ratified arguably the most democratic constitution in South Carolina's history in 1868. Without the formal right to vote, African American women engaged enthusiastically in politics, like the Rollins sisters, who established one of the first suffrage leagues here in the city. So it was a time of radical change and immense possibility. And so when the forward-thinking General Assembly decided to use state funding to support the professional pipeline of African American teachers, Celia and others seized the opportunity. They were among the first Black people to attend classes on this campus during the brief time of desegregation here at USC. Historian Tyler Perry, and also USC history alum, argues that, quote, though not officially recognized as enrolled students, it was, according to many, a de facto part of the university. And the educational training these women received was among the finest in the state, if not in the entire South. Despite being short-lived, the South Carolina Normal School provided its students with a career outside of agricultural and domestic labor that empowered them to serve communities in need across the South. As the most researched graduate, Celia's life work demonstrates the impact of that foundational training. So what did Celia and others do with her training that she received at the South Carolina Normal School? Well, she became a beloved educator in this community, first heading back to Howard School, where she earned a reputation for, quote, never being absent nor tardy, and for being generous with her knowledge with students and other teachers. Monroe Majors, in his 1893 publication, Noted Negro Women, Their Triumphs and Activities, heralded Celia as, quote, a scholar of no mean rank and as one of the best educators the race has produced. By the turn of the 20th century, she was embedded in the community as a leading change agent. She received a gold medal, which you can see here, by Columbia's Board of Education in 1913, a major acknowledgement during the Jim Crow era in South Carolina. In the latter half of her career, she transitioned to Booker T. Washington High School, where she became known as the matriarch of Booker. One of her students, Maud Robinson, recalled, "Before each class, Mrs. Saxon would give us lectures about life. She gave us wonderful historical instruction, including African American history. We were not deprived there of learning about our history or our background. She was such a wonderful and dedicated teacher." Saxman's investments in the education of Black children, the professionalization of Black teachers, and her worldview as an African American woman informed all of her work as an innovative clubwoman and a dedicated philanthropist. She was a founder of the South Carolina Federation of Colored Women's Clubs and was instrumental in founding the Fairwold Home for Delinquent Girls, which functioned as a safe haven or orphanage for African American girls in 1917. As a president of the Phyllis Wheatley branch of the Young Women's Christian Association, Celia's contributions made their youth programs so popular that the state newspaper described them as the Center for African American Girls Clubs of Columbia. The YWCA headquarters that she helped secure provided some of the first library services for African Americans in the city, as well as a day nursery for the babies of working mothers. Here you can see that the Palmetto Leader reported that the Wise building was the dream of that grand and noble woman, Mrs. C.D. Saxon. And Celia's work continued to expand and impact people outside of Columbia. In addition to leading and helping coordinate housing for annual professional development workshops for educators at Benedict College, she also played an instrumental role in the Palmetto Teachers Association, a statewide advocacy organization for African Americans that provided access to the best educational resources available. As a treasurer for the organization, Celia was entrusted with the hard-earned money of African American teachers from all over the state. The Palmetto Leader newspaper reported, "Money in her hands is as safe as a New York exchange placed in a vault." So in other words, she did not play. As a respected and revered educator, Celia's influence also expanded beyond her contributions here in South Carolina. She was on the executive committee for the National Association of Teachers in Colored Schools, and in 1926, Mary McLeod Bethune, a contemporary of hers, asked her to lead a new initiative to support literacy in Black communities across the United States. And here you can see in the only letter that I was able to find in her hand that she writes, "The work of the National Association of Colored Women must be carried on, and each one of us must try to do our part. I accept the chairmanship of the Illiteracy Department and will do all I can to make the department a success." Indeed, Celia's commitment to providing the best education and resources to Black children fueled the fervor of her activism. When we contrast the difficulty African Americans navigated while living in the Jim Crow era, having been regulated to second-class citizenship and subjected to the violence of white supremacist rule. Her ability to strategically navigate these local, statewide, and national terrains is all the more impressive. Her success in South Carolina and beyond spanned generations, making her such a notable educator that we are still celebrating her legacy nearly a century after her death. And we can add that beautiful poem to her public commemoration. So my research reveals that Celia is the most memorialized African-American woman in South Carolina. And it all began in 1830 when the Celia Dow Saxon School was named in her honor. And many of us know that that's at the corner of Blossom and Assembly Streets. Saxon's attendance record, along with her prominence as a race leader and club woman, made the name memorial in her honor a commendation that all Colombians, no matter their race, could celebrate. And you can see here a picture of the school, and this is a group of teachers who taught there. In 1954, Saxon Homes was dedicated in her honor, and Superintendent C.A. Johnson, who you can see pictured here, delivered his dedicatory tribute. He stressed Saxon's outstanding virtue. If indeed one is to be picked out, it was her interest in people, especially the underprivileged, that he wanted to note. After decades of disrepair, the Columbia Housing Authority maintained their commitment to commemorating her legacy by creating the Celia Dow Saxon neighborhood. And that was, again, an expansion of her legacy in the 21st century, unlike many housing projects named for African American women that were torn down and not renamed. Because of the expansion of USC's campus and urban renewal that displaced the residents of the Ward 1 community in downtown Columbia, there was a strong desire to commemorate the spaces that meant so much to the residents in the 20th century. And so the Ward 1 organization garnered the support of University of South Carolina and now Center for Civil Rights inaugural director Bobby Donaldson, to develop some public commemoration in honor of the space that had once been very much a part of their lives. And so their collaborative efforts in 2008 resulted in the erection of a historical marker commemorating both Saxon and the school. And even though the physical building is no longer there, it's clear that Celia's indelible mark on her students and communities has fostered an enduring camaraderie. And as their motto says, we're still not done with the old Ward 1. And lastly, in 2023, the Ward 1's community advocacy also resulted in another memorial. In the spring of 2023, just last year, USC dedicated its first building for a Black person. And I had the honor of participating in the dedication of Celia Dow Saxon Hall, just a couple of blocks away from where the Saxon School stood. And you can see me standing here with Celia's great-granddaughter, Jerry Havilow, who herself has been awarded Teacher of the Year 3 times. And the Atlantic City Public Schools. So indeed, Celia's legacy lives on in so many different ways. Mrs. Saxon will never die because students refer to her every day. She had so many wise sayings, and her students would say, as Miss Saxon said. So what meaning can we draw from Celia and her cohort that will benefit us today and continue to expand her legacy as we auspiciously celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Normal School? I think we can ask ourselves as educators, as academics, as community activists, how is our love for children driving our activism inside and outside of the classroom, inside academia and outside academia? Whether living in the Jim Crow South, like the graduates of the South Carolina State Normal School found themselves, or in the uncertainty of national and global politics that we often find ourselves in today, we can all allow our service and our contributions to positively impact the lives of children. We can hold in our hearts the memories and legacies of educators like Celia and remember that our guiding light in the work that we do should always be our love for children. So with that, I want to encourage you to read Black Women Legacy, which will be coming out in December. It is a book that features not just Celia, but other South Carolina women, and it will be released this December. I'll be happy to stay around and chat with you if you have any questions. I want to say thank you again to you all for being here, and thank you for having me to celebrate this wonderful occasion.
There are certain people, when you learn about them, you think, oh, I wish I had known that individual. I wish I had known that person. Celia Dial Saxon is one of those people that when you hear about her, you think, I wish I had known her. And I feel like that today, after this event, this wonderful poem, this wonderful talk, we know Celia Dial Saxon a little better. And so, thank you to Jennifer and to Alexandria for helping us understand and know this wonderful woman better and to understand a little bit more about the normal school and what it meant and what it continues to mean. Thank you, Sam, again, for your wonderful rendition of that song. And I look forward to hearing your concluding song in a moment. Thank you so much. Today's theme has been about memorialization and learning about and memorializing the past. And so I think a next step that we might take would be to get a memorial to the normal school and have another plaque like the one to Celia Dial Saxon or like the one to the Reconstruction era that it stands outside of the horseshoe. So I think that's the next effort that we need to make as part of this exhibit and process. So now I'm on the record as saying that I'm going to work on that and make it happen and submit the application to the Department of Archives, and then they have to approve it and approve the language, and then we have to raise the money. So this isn't going to happen tomorrow or next week. It takes a few days or a few months, but I think this is what we need to do next. And you're right. Jennifer's poem is another memorial to Celia Dial Saxon. I think that's wonderful. So today we have been moved, we've been inspired, we've been educated, and it's just been a wonderful day. So with that, I'm going to invite Sam McWhite back to the podium to close today's program with a final song.
And I'd like to offer a thank you to Dr. Christian Anderson for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful celebration of African American heritage on this campus, on this land. It really shows where the root of our education and our knowledge has come from, and gives excitement and credence to where it's going. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home, a band of angels coming for me, coming for to carry me home. That's why I sing. Swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got home on the other side. Swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got home on the other side. Well, Ezekiel was out in the middle of the field. He said he saw an angel with the chariot wheel. He wasn't too concerned about the chariot wheel. He just wanted to see how the chariot feel. Why don't you swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got home on the other side. Why don't you swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got home on the other side. Well, Ezekiel went down into the chariot on board. He wasn't too concerned about the chariot going on the road. Oh, Zeke wasn't concerned about the down the road. See, he just wanted to lay down his heavy load. Why don't you swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got home on the other side. Swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got a home on the